How's it going, everybody? Sean Ross here, and welcome to my review of My Hero Academia chapter 156, which was entitled The Rescuee's Power. Now, I can already tell that many people are going to be talking about and discussing the big reveal that took place with Eri's character, with the reveal of what her quirk actually does, because up until now, we've been led to believe by Horikoshi, and also just the way that this arc has been playing out, Eri's quirk dealt with permanently taking away someone else's quirk, judging by how Overhaul was actually able to experiment on her, create these quirk nullifying bullets, and actually use them on Lemillion a few chapters back. But with this new reveal about the rewind ability of Eri's quirk, it actually ends up bringing up a lot more questions than answers we've been getting dealing with Eri's quirk. So I'll talk more about that as I go through the chapter, but one thing I really did notice as I was reading this chapter multiple times, about 3 to 4 times, is that this is a very female character-centric chapter, and Horikoshi gives a lot of shine to not only our female heroes and Eri, but our female villain as well of Toga, which I love the fact that Toga made a reappearance in this chapter. I'll talk more about the League of Villains, but right now, I want to go all the way back to the beginning of this chapter, because what I love about this is that Horikoshi took the time to flash back about 20 minutes to the beginning of the operation, where we have Uravity, Froppy, Nejiri, and Ryukyu going up against the big hulking Katsukame, the big muscular guy that's a part of Overhaul's organization. And as the chapter opens up, we see that Katsukame, he's been detained, he's actually captured, and we get the reveal of not only his name, but his quirk. And his quirk is that he's able, once he touches you, he can inhale your energy or your vitality and use that to actually grow in size and become stronger. So I actually do find that to be very interesting, but it comes with that disadvantage that he has to make contact with you in order to activate his quirk. But as our main female heroes are making their way into the compound, we notice that Katsukame is able to, activate his quirk. He ended up taking the drug and is now able to actually inhale everyone's energy, and thus the fight continues for about 20 minutes with our main female heroes going round 2 with Katsukame. And not only did we get the reveal of Katsukame's quirk, but Nejiri's quirk as well, which is entitled Surge. And it actually, falls into how Horikoshi likes to name his characters, because every name for every character gives a hint to what their overall power is. And it deals with shockwaves, and because of just how it works, it ends up, spiraling, it gets twisty, and doesn't have speed, but it still has power around it. So as Nejiri is basically keeping Katsukame at bay, Ochako notices something very strange in the distance, and we get the reveal that Deku is up on the surface telling his friends where they need to go in order to go confront Overhaul. And at this section, I was completely confused, and I was like, wait a minute. Deku is fighting Overhaul right now. Who is this? And it took me about 2 pages, which I'm very ashamed about because I knew who this was. It's Toga. Toga is the only one who could transform into Deku in this situation, because when you go back to the license exam arc, she was able to acquire a sample of Deku's blood, so she transformed into Deku in order to fool Ochako and the rest of the female heroes to actually have them actually go in and join in on the fight with Overhaul, which actually just goes with their overall plan to have plus chaos, which I absolutely love. But this leads into a fantastic moment of teamwork between all of our female heroes, with Ryukyu containing Katsukame, Uraraka coming in using her gravity to make Katsukame float, Froppy basically being the tow cable to move Katsukame to the exact position to where Nejiri could use her shockwaves to push Katsukame through the ground, where last chapter we got that shocking reveal of all of our female heroes busting in through the ceiling and joining in on the fight with Deku going up against Overhaul. And I love the fact that Katsukame is like, wait a minute, how can you all still move? And they reply with, because we're told day in and day out, go beyond, plus ultra. Such a good moment. So now that our main female heroes have busted in through the ceiling or are down in the underground, we cut over to a very quick section with our League of Villains, of Toga, Twice, and a new copy of Mr. Compress. And I love this section because not only do you have Toga, melting down out of her Deku state and knowing the fact that she is going to be completely naked, it's the dialogue from the compressed copy that basically says to Toga, hey, can you please put some clothes on? You are making an old man very, very flustered right now. So I love that little section right there, but it's also coming to learn the main mission, the main goal of the League of Villains and why they are there working with Overhaul, because they are with Overhaul to basically capture Eri out of his clutches. And it kind of makes sense because that's kind of why everyone's there. Everyone is there right now to kind of capture or rescue Eri, get her out of this situation and either put her in a worse situation or a better situation. So basically, the main crux of this whole arc is Eri, and I feel so bad for her, but this leads into actually the big reveal that kind of takes place with Eri's character, because after we cut away from the League of Villains, we see Deku rush in to grab Eri, but then Overhaul swoops in right before Deku and then recreates the ground. A giant pillar ends up, launching them back up to the surface. Deku is completely losing his mind right now. He is screaming Chizaki's name, and as Eri is kind of going up with Overhaul, Eri notices that there is Lemillion's cape on a rock as they're slowly going up, and without even thinking it, kind of doing it subconsciously, Eri ends up grabbing the cape, and this is what ends up causing her to awaken. Her quirk that we've kind of been speculating about this whole time finally gets revealed. There's actually a lot of reveals that comes from Eri's character in this little section. The first one doesn't actually deal with her quirk. It ends up actually confirming her relation somewhat to Overhaul, because Overhaul's boss that we've kind of seen, shown here and there, Eri is the granddaughter to this boss, because this boss's daughter ended up having a child, and, through marriage that she actually did not want, and through many circumstances, the mother ended up abandoning Eri soon after Eri ended up, what seems like destroying her husband, because we see a panel of just clothes just on the ground. This guy is nowhere to be seen. And then we get the reveal finally of what Eri's quirk actually is. Rewind. And as we get that reveal, we see that Eri is actually kind of taking Overhaul out of his monstrous state. We see Overhaul and Nemoto basically no longer joined together. They are separating, and Eri is slowly falling into Deku's arms, which I absolutely love that panel right there, because I feel so happy just to know that Eri can get out of this situation safe. I'm hoping that ends up being the ending of this arc, with Deku ending up saving, Eri, because it's all thanks to this entire operation that they're able to save this little girl out of this terrible, I mean terrible situation. But this raises a lot of questions and a discussion dealing with Eri's quirk, because what does her quirk actually do? Now, Rewind can be very vague, so until we actually get a title and a description for Eri's quirk, we don't know exactly what it does. But right now, Eri cannot control her quirk. But as we can kind of guess and speculate on with this chapter, she can rewind a person to a previous state that they were at before. I don't know about fast forwarding, but she can definitely rewind. So dealing with that one panel where we see her father, we just see the clothes on the ground. My guess is that Eri ended up rewinding him before he even existed. So it has to deal with, taking the cells and just basically rewinding them to a previous state. And she is kind of doing the same thing with Overhaul and Nemoto before they were conjoined. So she rewound them to a previous state to where they were two separate beings and didn't combine into one. But this also has to ask the question is like, what does this mean for the quirk nullifying bullets that ended up affecting Lemillion a few chapters back? My guess is that through experimentation and Overhaul learning a little bit more about Eri's quirk, he was able to actually use the quirk to target cells in the human body and actually revert the cells before a quirk was ever to manifest. Now, whether this means that through time, Lemillion will end up regaining his quirk, that still remains to be seen. But as it states right now, we are still very unaware of what Eri's quirk is able to do. Now, I know many people are going to say a rewind quirk is very OP, but we don't really know the ramifications. We don't know how far the quirk can go, and we don't know what type of weakness comes along with Eri using this quirk, because she is still a little kid. She has no idea how this quirk works, and through training and actually coming to learn more about her quirk, I would really like to see a more powerful, a more grown-up Eri using this quirk later on down the road, because I think that would be fascinating. But until now, until we actually go into more chapters and kind of get more reveals about how Eri's quirk works, we're just left to speculate. So the ending of this chapter basically ends with Eri falling into Deku's arms as she is holding, the cape of Lemillion, and we're kind of just left to wait until next chapter. There's a lot that went down in this chapter, I felt, but I still felt like it went by very, very quickly. And of course, the main discussion here is going to be about Aries Quirk. So that is going to be my review for this chapter, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What do you guys think about Aries Quirk? Leave your thoughts and theories and speculations about how this quirk may work. How does it factor into the quirk nullifying bullets that Overhaul was able to produce? Will Lemillion actually be able to recover, and will his quirk slowly come back? There's many questions right now, but I would definitely like to hear all of your overall thoughts on this chapter, whether you liked it or disliked it. Give your honest opinions. I like this chapter a lot, and I really look forward to chapter 157 next week. So that's going to be it for my review. And until chapter 157 next weekend, I'll talk with you guys all later. And remember, guys, plus ultra.